I was 13 years old when I was put into a solid back brace.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had scoliosis at the age of 13. And so back in those days, they thought, well, if you're in a plastic, I had a steel pin down the spine. If you're in this container as you're growing, you're going to grow straight. And I thought, this is it. I've got scoliosis for life. I have to live with pain for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Until I implemented nutrition. Your gut bacteria is out of balance, but there could also be parasites. That when our environment is clean, you are in massive healing mode. Do you love your life? And do you love every day that you're waking up and enjoying this journey? Because if you are in a line with your soul's purpose and your soul's journey, you're going to love every day.
Welcome to Soul Chats, the podcast where I delve into the depth of human experience and explore what it is to be a human as we embark on a journey of self-discovery, reflection, and meaningful conversations that truly nourish the spirit. From profound insights to heartwarming stories, each episode is truly a sanctuary for your soul. Get ready to be inspired and connect with the essence of who we truly are. This is Soul Chats. So it's World Quantum Day today.
World Quantum Day. And it's just so awesome because it's actually the scientists working on the quantum technology and the quantum physics. They're the ones that actually collaborate today. And so they know scientifically that there's so much going on, but it's so beautiful to know that in every country around the world, there's people working on this stuff.
Oh, wow. Yes. Oh, that is cool. And so are we. Yes. We're contributing like this.
Perfect.
That's fantastic. That's so good. So, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me today. It's really exciting. I kind of remember the very first time we met. Was on one of the networking situations. And yeah, just straight away loved your energy, loved your enthusiasm, and obviously definitely love what you're doing. And as I said, I was just looking at your website and it just so aligns with everything that I want and do. And it's interesting, as we were just saying, is like, how do you collate that? How do you actually bring that into what I love about like the fact that we're in Quantum Day, World Quantum Day, is to me, this time that we're in now, and especially kind of this bridge that we've crossed in this year, what it really feels like is in the quantum concept and where we're moving to now, we don't have to be as specific as in like this or that. I really feel like this and that is what quantum is about. And so being able to kind of put it down in that way, which is just, so it gives us permission to do all the things.
Yes. And I often find that like one thing flows into the next that flows into the next. And so it really isn't just about having one program or one offering or, one way of helping people. It is about actually, what has happened in your journey and what are you here, how are you here to serve? But definitely, I think it's multifaceted. And that's only coming from me because of my journey was all over. And that's, that's what I find is helpful to offer to people. I don't just focus on nutrition because I know it's not just nutrition in order to heal your body. There's going to be other things that come into play.
This 100% resonates with me. I kind of always think like that's the medium or the avenue or the doorway to get people into working with you or that concept. But once you're in your world, it's a vast world, and it's the same in my world. It's like people come in one way, but once you're in, it's like close the door behind you because you're in for a while.
I know, it's so divine. I reflect back and I mean, I've got people that have been working with me for like 5, 6, 7 years, and they still are so enthusiastic to show up every week. They'll know that every week there's going to be value that will be added to them and there will be realizations and there will be things that will go, those aha moments. And I always say, if you can just give one person one aha moment a week, then that's perfect. You've done your job for the week,
That's wonderful. It's a wonderful way. So how did you get on your path? Like, where did you begin?
Yeah, so I started, always knowing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So, so the first job that I dived into was I had my own travel agency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was purely because I wanted to travel the world. So why not have a travel agency if you want to travel the world? But I soon realized that the 24 hours, 7 days a week stress had such an impact on my physical body.
All
And
right.
so yeah, 4 years of having my own travel agency and my own body started breaking down on me because
Where were you living at that time?
I was in South Africa. Yeah, I was
Okay.
in South Africa in Durban. Yeah.
Because that's where you were born. That's,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so yes, and then, what slowly unraveled for me is I had a couple of specialists tell me that I would not be able to conceive children naturally. And so, when you told something like that, it's kind of like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I'm gonna prove you wrong. I am going to. And also I came from quite a big family. My
Mm.
dad was one of 9, my mom was one of 6. So I always had these big, lots of
Wow.
family gatherings, lots of cousins around me. So I loved family. It was like, I actually want my own family one day. And when you get told you can't have what you want,
Wow.
that kind of really pushed me. And I said, right, well, the medical is telling me this, and the medical is showing up all of these things. I have to look at alternatives
Mm.
because if the doors have been closed here, there has to be some doors that are opened. And so I
Mm.
did dive in, and I dived into studying everything and immersing myself in everything and then implementing. So it was nutrition. It was understanding the anatomy and the physiology of the body. It's not just the organs, but it's all the chemistry that goes in amongst those organs as well. And then it was actually understanding what stress does on your system.
Mm.
And really unpacking all of this got me to sell my agency, change my life around, and did a lot of personal development courses because then I realized there was emotional stuff there. I dived into my spiritual side because I'd lost my faith. I'd walk along the beach and I'd cry when I saw families and I'd go, why me? Why me, God? Why am
Mm.
I like this? And so yes, so that was well over 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it took me 4 years. And in 4 years of bringing my body back into balance and bringing my life back into balance, I did conceive my children naturally. And
Amazing.
it really is. It was like it really put me on this whole, research about the human body and how this actually functions. But it's so crazy, Wendy, because you've got this calling or this purpose or this way that you can serve. But life always has a way of like testing you
Yeah.
and pulling you out of what you want. So what actually happened is like I really wanted to go into natural health. And then I was getting called into the corporate world
Oh, okay.
because I was doing so much personal development work with corporates and so much with leadership teams that was changing their perspective of how they led and how they, handled themselves and what they thought. Because
Mm.
this was all everything that I had studied was also about what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, how to bring the two into an alignment that actually makes for a better living and a
Mm.
better lifestyle. And so then I would resign from corporate and then get back into my health journey. And then I get this little phone call saying, we need your help. And so this little in and out went on for a number of years with great success in the corporate world, but always just wanting to totally focus on how can I just bring about more to what I want to do. And that happened for me about 10 to 12 years ago when it was like, right, I'm done with all of that. I'm now really focusing 100% on how to bring my programs about. And initially, it wasn't my programs. Initially, I became a master coach on other people's programs because
Mm.
I also saw the benefit in the research that they had done. And so that was, for me was also just phenomenal again. Wow, you've got a formula that works. Let's use things that work.
Mm.
But then I also realized that, when you are coaching other people's programs, there's so much of your own that you want to put in,
Yeah.
so much, a little bit extra that you actually want to do. And so that's what I started doing is, having membership platforms where I could actually offer different things to people that really I knew was putting them a little bit above, just one program. It's like, but if you do this, you get a little bit more. And if you do
Mm.
this, then you'll get a little bit more. And I think it was just all because I had implemented it myself and I
Wow.
knew the results of it. Yeah.
So you say that, like, say, one big component was nutrition that you felt was a big shift for you. Could you, like, what was the difference for you? What were you doing eating wise and everything that, because I think that's a good conversation, because I know so often we meet clients and even, friends or other people, and you ask, oh, what's your diet like? No, my diet's good. And when you then look a bit closer, you realize, well, what do you call good? Like, I think it's, and as we know, it's so confusing. There's so much contradicting information. And so how did you know that, your diet was a problem at the time?
Yeah. Purely the inflammation in my body. So I
Right.
knew I had pain with inflammation. So if I go back even further in time, I was 13 years old when I was put into a solid back brace.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had scoliosis at the age of 13. And so back in those days, they thought, well, if you're in a plastic, I had a steel pin down the spine. If you're in this container as you're growing, you're going to grow straight. So that was a brilliant theory, brilliant theory. So I was in it until I stopped growing, which was at the age of 16. And
Oh,
then when I came out of it, but my core muscles were so weak because it was like, I had to stop sports, I had to stop all sorts of things. So with core muscles being so weak, my curvature slumped to 25 degrees and settled there. So most of my adult life, I lived with chronic back pain. There was inflammation in my spine, and I thought, this is it. I've got scoliosis for life. I have to live with pain for the rest of my life,
wow.
until I implemented nutrition. And really the big eye opener for me was being able to move and get out of bed with no pain, So that
Through
was
nutrition alone at that point.
through only nutrition, only nutrition. And a big component was realizing that I needed to get the gut microbiome in balance. So a big thing was removing refined sugars.
Mm.
And I am brilliant with fruit, but don't give me any refined sugars. Refined sugars, immediately the inflammation comes back again.
Mm.
So it's like, okay, I've got to find things that will satisfy me with fruit, and know that that is actually really good for my hormones as well. It's good for everything in my system. So removing the refined sugar was a big component, but also realizing that when your gut microbiome is out of balance, your gut bacteria is out of balance, but there could also be parasites. And that's a big thing of what I do now as well, is I actually can assess whether you do have bacteria, parasites, viruses, heavy metals, other chemicals, anything in your system that could be causing the blockages or causing the toxins that are in your body. And so now you think about these little parasites wanting to live, they're going to call on that sugar. They're going to go, I want that chocolate, or I want that croissant, or I want that muffin. So I often say to people, it's not you craving, it's the little bugs in you that are craving. So it's really going that step further and going, actually, what am I feeding to the ecosystem within me? What's happening with the environment inside me? And I know for sure that when our environment is clean, you are in massive healing mode. Every day our body wants to heal. Every single day our body wants to heal. But there could be toxins in our body that is stopping those healings. It's stopping us from doing the best that we possibly can. And so when you think about, everything goes through our bloodstream. Everything moves through our blood at some stage. And the blood is the environment. It's the environment that our stem cells can actually do the healing in. So we've got to keep our environments nice and clean. And me being told that I wouldn't be able to conceive children, I realized my environment, my uterus, my tubes, my ovaries, that all needed to be cleaned out. That really needed to be cleaned out. I needed to create an environment, remove the stress. I needed to create an environment that was healthy enough for a child to survive in. And so, I often say to many women nowadays, did you prepare for your pregnancy? Did you prepare for bringing a child in Did you clean everything out? Were you aware of actually making the shifts and changes? And so many of us are not. They're just really not. And then they wonder why kids nowadays have ADHD. Because who ate
Among, yeah, absolutely. And amongst other things in particular, because it is really, like you say, and as we're talking, cleaning out and preparing on so many levels. It's not just, like you say, nutrition, even though that was such a big component for you. That's huge, isn't it? That component of the nutrition being such a big part of it. It's really quite phenomenal.
It's really big because I now view food as fuel. So
Mm.
food can either heal you or it can harm you. So, processed foods, more of the man-made foods, it's hard for our digestive system to actually move through that. So if the digestive system is so busy processing the processed food, then how can we, move into a healing mode?
Mm.
But honestly, I know this for sure, Wendy, as well. The mind is so powerful.
Yeah.
Your thoughts are so powerful, which is why, my programs incorporate everything, because we've got to align with everything. I remember choosing when I fell pregnant with my first child. It was like, okay, I'm doing this health thing. I'm gonna do this health thing 100%. So I chose a home birth. And I wanted the baby to be born in water, because I also knew that water took away 30% of the pain, and I did not want any injections going into my spine that was curved. So I thought, I'm taking away all the risks, and I'm having this baby at home. My mind was so clear, like so clear. This birth is going to be perfect. There will be nothing going wrong with this birth. In fact, I knew as a woman, I got to move through my pain to get to my joy. So I had that, but I was doing everything naturally. And I also look back and I thought, wow, all my grandparents and my great-grandparents and my great-grand, they all did this naturally, So if I've got the support of a good team around me, I can do this naturally. I can really do this naturally. And so, just your thoughts are so powerful, because I remember having the most beautiful births with both my children, most beautiful births, and telling my sister about them and said, you've got to do this home birth thing. You've got to do this home birth thing. Well, when she felt pregnant and then she eventually gave birth, and she phoned me up, she said, Kerry, what were you talking about, this home birth thing? What were you talking about? She said, I had the most dreadful, dreadful experience. Halfway through a home birth, I was rushed to hospital, and it was just like, really. I said, where were your thoughts? She said, oh, yeah. She said, I doubted my capabilities the whole way through. The whole way through, I doubted what I was doing. And this is that you've got to have such clarity in everything that you want to bring about, whether it's a birthing of a child or a birthing of a project or a birthing of a new business or whatever you are bringing about. Your thoughts are so, so powerful, so powerful. They can actually make things flow, or they can stop the flow.
What comes up for me with that, which is relating to the nutrition thing, is that when we're on sugar and when we're on this sort of thing, when we decide that we want to have a cleaner diet, there is a detox process. There is a process where the body is craving it, and that there's this, this response, this reaction to the sensations and the desire. And the mindset is the same. Like we are addicted to a certain thought pattern and that belief system, and that sort of like, say, thinking that it's not going to work out, or I'm not going to do that. Like, for you to get so clear on your thoughts, and like you were saying, it's like literally like you're so clean on every level, including your thought pattern. But that would have required like a detox period to let go of the old way of thinking and the old thoughts, and that wouldn't have that you have to catch those moments.
And so that's exactly it. What if you can do a detox without the detox symptoms? Why do we think about detoxing as, oh my gosh, I've got to move through some pain here, or it's going to be uncomfortable, or it's not going to be, I'm going to get headaches, I'm going to get flu. Everybody goes, you get the keto flu, you get all these rashes, you get all these detox. What if you don't need to experience that? And I think this is going back to, when you remove refined sugars, you have to increase natural sugars.
Mm.
Because if you increase natural sugars, the body goes, oh, I've still got this beautiful glucose coming in, but in the natural form, which means I don't have to collapse into my detox. My body can handle this detox. Plus, I'm fully hydrated. So now I've got lots of this beautiful hydration in every cell. I've got lots of natural sugars coming into everything. And actually, I'm in a really good place mentally. I'm ready for this detox. I'm ready for this next stage of my well-being. Like, I'm ready for it. So yes, it goes back to, it's the food, it's the thoughts, it's the feelings. And we've really got to make sure that we put that all together in order for us to have a really pleasant experience, which is very doable. It's really, really doable.
And the same would be with the thoughts as well, detoxing from thoughts, as opposed to just like, resisting the negative thoughts or resisting the old thought patterns or resisting. It's like pivoting to the what you do want. It's like I quite often with clients, when we're working when there's uncertainty for where they want, or when we want to develop some affirmations, and it's like, well, what do you want? It's like, I'm not sure. Well, it's like, well, you know what you don't want. So we always often start with what we don't want, and we make a real clear list, and then we literally just pivot to the opposite. And so that you have this clarity. Well, quite often, obviously if you don't want that, then you must want this. And so I suppose that's another way of doing that as well. Like you say with the sugars, is that we're just shifting to a different form of sugar that's more conducive to optimal health. And same with thoughts. We're shifting to a thought pattern that's more conducive to optimal health. And it does require like a bit of attention though, doesn't it? It does require a little bit of decision making and focus.
Absolutely. I talk about food psychology because there is the thought process around food. And so many of us are still on this automatic mode. I get so many of my clients going, well, I'm eating the right stuff, but I'm still not releasing any weight. And I'm going, okay, how big is your plate? And they're going, it's good stuff, but I'm putting a lot on my plate. And I'm going, do you finish your whole plate? Yes. Why do you finish your whole plate? Oh, because I was told as a child that I need to finish my plate. So it's that old programming.
Yeah.
All programming plays out automatically. And this is when you've really got to unpack your food psychology and going, okay, so I had to finish my plates as a child before you could move away from the table. That was the one thing. I had to eat as much food as I possibly can. I'm going, that was grandparents and great-grandparents' scarcity around the Great Depression or the wartime. It's not our life right now.
No.
We've got an abundance of food on the planet at the moment, an absolute abundance. And so, really look at what have you been programmed with.
And food as a reward, and food as entertainment, and having something sweet after you've had dinner and dessert, and eating something sweet when you're watching a movie, or you've got, it's all these little things that are like unconscious, and they're kind of just a belief system that's just what you do.
Yes, but as you've said that, we've been programmed with that because you watch a movie on TV and somebody has a breakup and they get the tub of ice cream.
Yeah.
So if you have a break, well, I've got to have a tub of ice cream.
And if it's movie night on TV, everybody's always got the popcorn out.
Yes. Yes. So it's all that programming that unconsciously sometimes we don't even know we've been programmed. And I remember this a couple of years ago, we were watching the Olympics on TV because we just love watching the Olympics. And in between every, event, McDonald's advert, McDonald's advert, McDonald's. And I'm going, those athletes don't eat the McDonald's.
Yeah.
But we're watching and we go, I actually feel like a McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because over and over and over.
Absolutely.
That is what was shown to us.
Yeah.
So we've got to be aware of, what is showing up in our world, what we're absorbing into our world, and what do we really want? What do we really want? And stick to what we want without the noise.
And that's the challenge, and this is why, like you say, that your programs and programs that succeed are multifaceted, because it isn't just about the food. It's like, because people go on a diet or they'll go on I'm going to do a 6-week, something. Or I'm now going keto, or I'm now going vegan. And it doesn't last because all that was changed was the food, nothing else, the food choices. And so there is so much more to food, isn't there? And there's so much more to health and vitality. I personally find like I do ice baths, and I do them for like, the health and the inflammation, all that. But for me personally, the number one benefit, and that I really, really think is powerful, it's one of the most powerful things I've done as far as that's concerned, is to regulate my response in a stressful environment, and to literally go, I used to say, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, just like, and I've taken that further and further now. And now it's differently. It's actually, this sounds silly, but it's part of my spiritual practice now, because I go beyond myself, and I literally can tell by the ice bath experience where I'm at. So sometimes I'm able to be there and be really beyond and really connect and go beyond and not be affected by the sensation and not be triggered, not let my thoughts get in the way. And other times I just can't. I struggle to get in there, and I'm battling there, and then I'm sitting there going, oh my God, and my thoughts don't want to, settle. So it's an interesting thing, these sort of finding different ways of reprogramming and retraining ourselves.
Absolutely. And the nice thing is it can be done.
Mm.
So that is like, we've got to be open to it. And I think when people are ready, then the right teacher shows up, and the right coach will be there. And, often I've had people say, why do you call yourself a coach? I'm going, you have those top athletes or those top business people. They have somebody in their corner every step of the way. And so life is really busy with all that noise and all the adverts and all the marketing and all the everything else that can actually trip you up. And so when you've got a coach, and when you've got something that's on a regular basis, you've got somebody there that's bringing you back to your true, your true journey,
Exactly.
your true, path that you want to be in. And so it's really important to, keep those practices going and keep getting reminded about the practices that will work for you, that will really work for you. Because I think there is different things for different people, but, and that's why there's different teachers for different people, but it's to actually, to be willing, to be open, and to do the work, to take the action.
Yeah. Absolutely. And to remember what the outcome is that you're going for. It's like quite often when people are looking at nutrition, it's because they want to lose weight. And then quite often it's because they want to lose weight because they feel unaccepted in society, or they feel judging of themselves. And so then it's like, that's actually the issue. And it's kind of often that, okay, I'm doing this diet. I might have lost the weight, and yet I still don't feel any different, and those same problems are still there. So it's that understanding of what is the real outcome you're looking for. So I love the way that you say that, like, as you said in the beginning, nutrition is your doorway to access this bigger picture as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always said that your gut is actually your number one brain. Because when you think about all the things your gut feel, it's tuning into that intuition. It's really getting into that way that, if you can tune into your intuition and listen to your gut feel, it's going to, drive you on the path that is of least resistance to your life, and you're going to be into that flow. But what if your gut feeling is really full of toxins? So for me, cleaning out the gut is really just allowing you to tap into that deeper guidance, that real deeper guidance. So, when the gut is clear, I always say that the gut is the first brain, the heart is the second brain, because it's like when you really feel something, then you moved. And then eventually we get the mind. And then we get the mind to really just confirm everything, or to do your research, or, whatever you need to do. But if you don't listen to that gut feel, often it, you're not on the right path. Or, I've had this many times in my life. I felt something and I didn't follow it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, I knew it. I just knew it.
I know. How often do we say that? People do. They say that. It's like, oh my God, I knew it.
Yeah, exactly. But can you imagine if your gut is nice and clean?
Yeah.
You're actually got your full energy. And with the full energy, you're able to then take the next step into your
Oh,
life.
it's so true. It's so true. And we all know that, when we bog down, we've had heavy food and your stomach's complaining or it's bloated or there's just a heaviness and all you want to do is sleep. I mean, that's not conducive to vitality and expansiveness and connection to the infinite field. You're very connected to the lower field and in that way. So what's your thoughts and your focus on fasting as far with that as well?
I love fasting.
Mm.
I love fasting because, it just gives your body a break. It really does give your body a break. So for many years, I used to do full moon fasting. So purely because I really do know that parasite eggs hatch over full moon. It's their life cycle. And
Wow.
so, yes. And so people are called Looney Tunes over full moon. I often said it's not them being a Looney Tune. It's everything in their nervous system and in their body is now multiplied.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they actually act in a different way because there's so much irritation within themselves.
Of course.
So yeah, so when there's Looney Tunes, they definitely need a detox. You definitely need a clean out.
Such a good point. That's
Yeah.
great.
So I would guide people through a 3-day, 72-hour water-only fast over full moon. So the
Wow.
day before, the day of, the day after. And I did that for many years. And now I've integrated a different pattern into my lifestyle. And I do normally about a 36-hour fast once a week.
Right.
So,
Okay.
on a weekly basis, I'm fasting. On a weekly basis, I'm also feasting. And on a weekly basis, I'm doing 2 meals a day.
Right.
So, and I also, a big thing that I have learned through so many thousands of clients that I've coached is that so many of us women don't eat the breakfast because you wake up in the morning and you've been told that it's actually best to do intermittent fasting and rather do lunch and dinner. And yet I have found that slows your metabolism down. So if you are able to wake up in the morning and you switch the brain on, this brain needs a lot of brain power. It needs a lot of fuel. And then even just moving to the bathroom, you switched on the muscles. So now you switched on the brain, you switched on the muscles, and most women go out and do exercise, and then they've got no fuel in their body. So with no fuel in your body and you pushing your body to the limit, the body's going to go, oh, I'm just going to store. I'm actually just going to store. So it goes into storage mode and your metabolism slows down. And this happens with age. And so now all of a sudden people are going, oh, I'm going through menopause. So, my metabolism slowed down. No, it doesn't have to be. So I've encouraged, people to get up in the morning, even if it's a smoothie, just have something easeful so that your body can actually easily digest it. Then start your day, have a nice amount of breakfast after that, have a nice lunch. And even if you have lunch around about 2-3 o'clock, and then don't eat again. Don't eat again, because when you think about it, your human growth hormone kicks in the evening. You don't want your human growth hormone to be interfered by digestion in order to do the healing. So if you can go into an evening with low digestion, that human growth hormone is going to be able to heal a lot more.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
And this is again coming back to beliefs and conditioning and culture. I mean, how long is it going to take before we realize we're not living in the 1950s and we don't have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And I do know that people enjoy, if they do that, they enjoy sitting around the table with their family having dinner. And that's a very rare thing anyway, I think. Most people sit in front of the TV with food on their lap. However, if you are sitting around the table and having dinner together, it is a pretty special thing. And I suppose that does make sense then to, how do you then incorporate that into your timing with food? I mean, for me, I always found it easy because I was always in the fitness industry and I was teaching classes and things at night. So I always ate my last meal was 4 o'clock will be the latest. So it was easy, it's just a natural thing. However, I that's easy for me to say. I don't have a family where we sit around, my daughter would eat later and stuff like that. But so it worked, but it doesn't work for everybody. And so that's another really good point in our industry, because my morning routine and my daily routine and my quest and health and wellness is conducive to my lifestyle.
Yes.
And so sometimes when clients have a very different lifestyle. And
Yes.
since I've been working online a lot more, I have more empathy for the fact that, like, God, you can literally sit behind this computer for 8 hours straight. Like, I never used to think, how can anybody do that? It must be so boring. However, when you're engaged with what you're doing behind there, you can get totally lost and forget you have a body. So it's interesting for different people. If they get up early and they've got to go to work, and then they sit behind a computer all day, and they come home late and they're exhausted because they've been sitting all day, and maybe they didn't eat because they were just so busy, and they had some coffees, and then they eat at night and they eat more than they would because they're tired, and it's comfort eating. So, and then, yeah, so I can imagine that education is key. I always find education is key. So when we can tell people about what's happening, and like you just said about the growth hormone, and then the second component is, how do we then work in with the emotions and the emotional needs and the structure of life?
Yeah.
Over to
And
you on that one.
no, but that's why it's so multifaceted, because I always say to my clients as well, let's work a plan that works with your lifestyle. Because if we don't have a plan that works with your lifestyle, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And I have a range of clients. I have everything from, people in their 20s to executives to, menopausal women to 80-year-olds. I've got 80-year-olds that come through and do my programs because they have some pains.
Amazing.
And it's so awesome when I see and they get results. I say to them, as long as you're alive, you can get results. But it just means that their lifestyles are so different. So everybody's lifestyle is different. So we've got to work with your lifestyle and work with, how do we implement to work this body with your lifestyle. And like you said, we actually don't need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We've been told that we need breakfast. But if we could eat when we're hungry, how awesome would that be? You just eat when when the body actually is telling you, okay, now I need some food. That for me is like the perfect place to be. But it doesn't always suit everybody's lifestyles. And so I always try and say as well, let's make it simple, and let's also prepare for everything. So if you can spend your weekend preparing your nutrition, it's one less thing to worry about during the week. I would often sit with clients and go, right, Sunday today, you're going to do your grocery shopping for the week. And now we got to work out what's your proteins for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What's your veggies? What's your fruit? What is there? So what's in the fridge? And if we plan a meal for one day, it doesn't mean you have to have it on that day. It just means that you've got it there so that you're not reaching for something that is non-functional, something that is actually going to harm the body instead of heal the body. So preparation for me is absolutely key. And we found the days to prepare on the days that weekends are key. But if people work on weekends, then we find another day. We go, right, if that's your grocery shopping day, let's do a plan on that day, and let's plan.
And make it fun. I mean, food prep can be fun, like I love it when I've bought a whole lot of great veggies and I've got them all on the bench, and it feels so abundant because you've got these fresh veggies and all these things. And then I've got all these containers, and then I put on some music and do my little food prep, and, I feel like I'm on one of those food shows, and, and make it really fun. And then every time I open the fridge, I feel so, virtuous because it's all right there. It's looking at me going, hi, we're so healthy. And it's just such a wonderful feeling. And like, it's quite empowering. And also, what I do though is I do have some contingency plans. So those moments when I've got this, like, okay, I'm going to have the healthy snack, and my body's going, hell no, we're not having a healthy snack. So I've got to have something that's like, I still choose the healthier option of a not so healthy option. and sometimes otherwise I probably would end up seeking out something that's, it's an emotional reason why I need that snack at that time, and this carrot or a celery stick's just not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I also say it's about putting more of the good stuff in.
Yeah.
If you put more of the good stuff in, the body will handle every now and again.
Yeah.
But the accumulation of the refined sugars and the grains and the acidity foods, the accumulation of toxins is what causes the symptoms that we find today. So every now and again, it's quite okay to have something that's, not ultra healthy. and your body will cope with that. Absolutely no problem at all. But it really is, and I love what you said about the prepping of the food and making it fun, because I've honestly, my clients have sent videos of their toddlers up on the kitchen counters, putting things, making smoothies, little 5, 6-year-olds preparing the food. I'm going, this is beautiful when you can actually encourage the family to be in the kitchen. Like, really encourage the family to be part of the experience with you, because when kids can touch and feel, they'll try it, and who knows what they're trying, and who knows what the best is when you see little kids trying lemon and they love it.
Oh, wow.
they don't even worry about the sour taste. It's like, oh, this is a different taste, and they absolutely love it. And so who knows what your kids might eat, if you encourage them to be there with you, playing with you in the kitchen.
And it brings the connection back to what you're eating, because it can be so unconscious, like, especially, there's extremes, obviously. However, even just the, obviously, like if people doing microwave meals or ready meals and all that sort of stuff, there's just a feeding something. There's no nourishing yourself. You're literally just feeding yourself, and there is, and you, because you're not being nourished, you're constantly seeking for more, because you didn't nourish yourself. Yes, you put some food in your stomach, but you didn't nourish yourself. Whereas if there is a relationship to the meal that you've prepared and the food you bought and the food you prepped and the food you prepared, there's a nourishment to that. It's like looking after yourself. There's an element of love coming in, not just food, not just even food, but yeah.
It's that self-care. It's really that self-care. But it is amazing how people have sometimes lost that, getting back into those kitchens, making those delicious meals, because when you make it yourself, and when it's not one of these ready-made store-bought meals, but when you make it yourself, there's love in there, there's energy in there, there's frequency in there, and you feel it every time. I'm very blessed. I have children that make food for me. So I feel very, very blessed. But every time it's like, oh, thank you for preparing this meal for me. Thank you for being in the kitchen and actually doing the work on this. And I feel that in the food that I'm actually eating. It's beautiful.
And the other thing about that I've become more and more pedantic about is because, again, education is key. And when we learn more and more about what is in our food, and one big thing that is quite almost traumatic after a while is understanding the seed oils. And then when you go to the shop and you pick up all the healthy items, all the healthy, like I'll go to somebody's house who's eating healthy, and they'll bring out a packet of, I don't know, pea snaps or something else, and the packaging looks healthy. It's peas, or it's this, it's that. And you have a look on the back and you're like, oh my God. And also like sauces, and there's hardly anything. You got to be so careful, like not careful, but aware. It's so hard to find something that doesn't have seed oils in it, even healthy stuff, even if every other ingredient is great, there's still seed oils in there, and it's so disappointing. And so from that perspective, it's like I become more and more like I just want to make my own things and stuff like that, because I know what I'm eating then as well,
Exactly. And that's the same, unfortunately, when you go and eat out at restaurants.
Yeah. No, well, that's why I go, okay, if I, like you just said about somebody making a meal for you and it's so lovely. That's why people love going out to dinner. And so when I do go out to dinner, I'm aware that I'm eating seed oils. So if I can avoid eating seed oils in my own meal time, as much as possible, then it's like, okay, that's a little price to pay.
Yes, exactly. And it's amazing because, obviously my kids are very aware of food and food choices. And and I think it was probably about 2 weeks ago, my daughter went out and all her friends were having pizzas. And so she had a pizza and she came back the next day and she said, Mom, can't do it. I have suffered all day today. And I'm going, yeah, because it's like, it's all those ingredients all mixed together. You actually don't even know what you're eating. You really don't know what you're eating. So a big key is definitely, if you're going to the supermarket and buying the foods, is to read the labels.
Yeah.
So that, and it's not the nutritional value, it's the ingredients. Like, look at the ingredients on those labels and see the sugar. And sugar, by the way, has over 200 different names. They actually hide it. 200 different types of sugar is around. Only like 5 years ago, there was only about 60 names of sugar.
Wow.
Yeah, so that has increased dramatically over the last.
Because as people have become more conscious of like wanting to cut down on the sugar, they're going, okay, well, we'll just call it something else.
Yes, yes, it's going to hide it in another chemical somehow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so there's over 200 different.
And also things like sunflower oil. People go, oh, sunflower oil, that's nice.
Yeah, not at all. There's just down the road from me here, there's a fish and chip takeaway shop that has got a big sign saying 100% canola oil.
Oh my God.
And it closed down. It closed down, and I'm going, I wonder why it closed down. People were not feeling well after they ate your food, so they're not going to come back. But it's like they were proudly advertising it, 100% canola.
But that shows you also their lack of information and knowledge.
Correct.
And that's the other thing. It's like there's so many oils that's again coming back to knowledge and information, which is challenging for people because there is so much like, oh, okay, olive oil is good for you. Oh, well, that type of olive oil. And when you do this to olive oil, it's not good for you. And not on this, but yes, on that. And all these things, and rice bran flour, and all the different things, or like oils, and avocado oil is good, and this isn't good, and that, and coconut oil. And so it is very confusing for people unless they choose to do a deep dive. And if we come back to the person who's got a busy life, getting up in the morning, going to work all day and coming home at night, and their mind is already so full with everything that's important in their life, it's very challenging for them to take the time to do a deep dive into what should I be eating and what's in my food and what oils are good and what isn't good. And so what would, this is where somebody choosing to come and see someone like you, and because say, for example, that person, that busy executive came to see you, what would be the process?
So I'm really happy that you're saying what you're saying and ask the question, because honestly, I see 30-year-olds and their bodies are, I've got this, like I'm handling. And by the time they get to 40, it's like their body's off the rails now, And then when they get to 50, then it's like, oh, we got all these symptoms. Symptoms have started. So when you unpack, it's like, well, what did you do 20 years ago?
Yeah, okay.
So we're not actually eating for today. We're eating for our future selves. And so when people come in and see me, I've got a frequency equipment that I use in order to get down to cellular level, because I want to know what's happening in your cells. I'm so curious, and I want to dive in there, and I want to know what's happening, and I want to know where your cells are healing. Because if you think you've got a shoulder ache and pain, but your cells are actually going to your liver, well, then you're never going to heal your shoulder because the cells are not going there. So it's really about unpacking and finding what is the root cause of the symptoms, as well as where are your stem cells going. So I do an assessment, and during the assessment with the frequency, because what we're doing is we're measuring the energy of the cells and the organs and the tissues. I go through musculoskeletal, digestive and immune system, hormones, heart and brain, nervous system. And then I look at a deeper layer with all your blood cells, your stem cells, your erythrocytes, neutrophils, all of those things. And then during that, I'm talking about their eating plans, and talking about what are they having, and just highlighting the things that could be causing additional buildup of toxins. So it really is unpacking everything, and then suggesting something for them to move forward with. So depending on what shows up, everybody is unique. Everybody's unique, and that's why a lot of people go, well, can one program help so many people? I'm going, if people are on the same program, they're going to go through it differently. So depending on what's going on, because everybody's unique, and there's little tweaks that I will make along the way, depending on what your body is moving through. So it's definitely not one size fits all. It's like everybody shows up with different things. Their stem cells are doing different things, And so your physical body right now, what I see is a makeup of your journey. And it is a journey of physical. It's a journey of trauma. It's a journey of what are all the emotions you've been through? Where are all the countries that you have traveled to? Where did you pick up any illnesses, sicknesses, food poisoning, water that was contaminated? Like everybody's had something different happen to them. And so when they go through the process with me, I'm unpacking all of these things and diving into what triggered that, what caused that to happen. How does this now, how can we now turn this around? How can we reset your factory settings? How do we go about for you as an individual? And so, yes, I absolutely love my work.
And I'd imagine that you would want to go through this again through different phases in life. Because obviously as we age, like I noticed, like through my health and wellness, and I prioritize that a lot, and I put a lot of time and effort into it. And I remember when I got to about 30, there was a little shift in my physiology and I was able to course correct. And then when I was about 40, there was another little shift and I course corrected. And I think around 46, 47, 48 was probably my peak. Like everything, I was just like, look good. I felt good. It was easy. And then when I turned 50, I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, I'm going to be able to course correct all the time. And then when I got to, I think 52, it's like, oh, that was different. And so I'm in a bit of a course correct now because it's a different journey. Like the course correction I've been able to do in the past hasn't worked this time. And so it's about like, okay, I need to have a look, like what is going on with my hormones? What is going on with the way that my body is responding to foods that I may have responded differently in the past, and also stress and sleep and all of those things. So I'd imagine that process of reassessing and checking the cells and doing all that stuff would be not a one thing. It's like every now and then through different phases in life.
Absolutely. And if you're really, really committed, I get people showing up on an annual basis. I get people showing up every 6 months. I have a couple of clients that will come to me once a month.
Wow.
And it's just because they've got stuff that they really want to address.
Yeah.
They really want to address. And it's like, can you just check? Can you just check?
Am I on the right track?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Am I actually strengthening my body, or has something thrown me off and I need to readjust now? And I need to readjust.
It's such a good point, because I always say that it's like, always like you got to notice the little things. You've got to notice when, like, and I was saying this to someone the other day, it's in everything. It like where I'm living, there's more and more little homeless villages popping up, and we're just not paying attention. And so it's all these little things. Like, at what point is it like an issue that we want to address? Same within a relationship. There's one or two little cracks showing, a little bit of bickering, a little bit of this, and we just ignore it. And at what point do we pay attention? And same with health and aging and mindset and mental health. Like, at what point do we recognize we've tipped the scale? At what point do we, and so how do we know which direction we're going in? Am I thriving or am I declining? And so that's a really great, and a lot of people need that tangible feedback. So that sounds amazing that you've got that opportunity for people to literally see, like, this is tangible feedback, not just I'm asking you how you're feeling.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is going deep, and this is finding out what your cells are doing. And we can see whether the cells have strengthened or weakened, and we can see exactly why. So has there been an increase in various toxins or pathogens in the body, or has there been a decrease? And so, yes, a lot of clients that have a lot of symptoms, they want to monitor really, really closely. And others are going, I'm good, I'll come see you in a year.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm doing, and like I'm on track now, which is awesome, because I always want to teach people there's a way to heal themselves.
Yeah.
And so give them the tools, teach them how to heal themselves. And then if they just need to check in every now and again, then they come back. But I really, really am a huge advocate for we can all access the information of our body ourselves, but we just need to know how. We really need to know how.
And I just wanted to ask one more thing about what we were talking about before about the fasting and things like that, because one reason the intermittent fasting is so popular and other things is talking about autophagy. And so do you think that autophagy is like the intermittent fasting is beneficial for that? Or do you feel like the once a week or once a month longer fast is enough? Or do you think that it is better than, or do you have any feedback around that?
Yeah, I am. So within 10 hours of you not eating, your body moves into autophagy. So autophagy
Right.
can actually happen pretty quickly, especially with intermittent fasting. So it's a good place for us to be in. But that autophagy accelerates the longer that you're without food.
Right.
So when I have taken clients through 3 days of 72 hours of fasting, we see that your energy kicks in, like really kicks in. And it's like, how do I have so much energy and I haven't got any food in my system? You actually feel, and that's because your body's had a chance to get rid of all those old cells.
Right.
Really, really clean out the system. I've had other people that have done it for 7 days. I've had
Whoa.
people that have done it for 9 days.
Oh,
There's a few that have gone a little bit further, but
wow.
it's just because they keep feeling better and better and better and better. And it's also because there's a viral overload in their system, and we've been able to actually put those back into balance. I find now that I'm on a weekly fast with some intermittent fasting, I'm finding at my age as well, I think we're the same age.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding that I have more and more energy and less inflammation, and I really can jump out of bed in the morning. So these are like my guiding markers for people. Like, can you sleep deeply? Can you put your head on the pillow and go to sleep and go into a beautiful deep sleep? Can you jump out of bed? And you wake up in the morning and it's like, I'm ready for the day. I've got this. Do you have consistent energy throughout the day? Do you feel like your body is hydrated? And do you also feel like you can have a bowel movement and not need toilet paper? So that's a big sign if your gut's in balance. And
Wow.
so if any of those things are not happening, it's really good to eat less.
Right.
Yes. So do the fasting on a regular basis, because that is going to allow your body to heal more. And it really is going to allow you to get to some of those really good measures that you're looking at.
And talking about conditioning, one thing that comes up for me is that I've spent my whole life in the gym and being into fitness, and I love muscle and I'm always looking at growing muscle. So my only thing that comes up for me with those longer fasts is like losing all that muscle. So what do you have about, what do you say around that?
Yeah, it's amazing, but 3 days, it's it really is. It's not long enough to lose enough, and your body bounces back really, really quickly.
Well, I imagine the growth hormone kicking in is going to balance that out and really
Yes,
benefit. And then when you do the training again, you probably do a little dip to go back up again. And so,
correct.
yeah.
Correct. So on my longer programs, when I'm really taking through people like 3-4 months, we normally get a little dip around week 6 to 8.
Hmm.
There is where I've actually said to them, lower your weights. Just for this little interim, lower the weights. And then the minute that healing has actually happened, whoa,
Wow.
they can up their weights again, and they've got a lot more muscle.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. And it sounds so comprehensive. It's amazing. I'm 100% going to
Yeah.
talk to my daughter because I really want her to come and do this with me. So this sounds amazing. So one last question I have with you is, really that this is Soul Chats and I'm all about soul alignment. So what does soul alignment mean to you personally and also like with your work environment?
I really feel like, do you love your life? And do you love every day that you're waking up and enjoying this journey? Because if you are in a line with your soul's purpose and your soul's journey, you're going to love every day. You're going to absolutely love every day. So I feel blessed. I do my gratitudes. I have beautiful spiritual practices as well that I do. And I do a lot of grounding. I'm on the beach as often as what I can be. I love where I live. I love the life that I've created. I adore my family. there's nothing better than my kids after the struggle that I had. And so I just feel they my miracles in my life still. And I just feel like if you're really on a good soul path, you will really be in love with you and your life.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. I can definitely feel that, and I ditto that completely. So thank you so much. This could have been, a 3-hour podcast for sure. That was just a wealth of knowledge, and I know we've only just scratched the surface. So I'm definitely going to encourage everybody to check out your website and to jump on one of the programs and at least, get introduced. There's so many offerings on there, as I mentioned before, which is just amazing. And it is about empowering ourselves as well. And sometimes people think, oh, I can't afford to go into these investments, or I can't go. And in the meantime, they're spending a fortune at Chemist Warehouse on supplements. You see people walking around with their basket and they're just throwing random things in there. And, they've easily spent $300 at Chemist Warehouse, and then they go and buy, a food plan from a prep food thing. And so when you take all of that into consideration, it's like, just invest in your health and longevity and long-term health. It's like, it's the tiniest and most important investment, really, when you think about it. So I really hope people take that on board. And you're amazing, and you're really just doing amazing things.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. It was so awesome being here with you. It really was. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you.